right, we're gonna watch the.
I have mixed feelings about this video, so we'll just watch it.
All right, we're gonna watch the address. By the way, I'm going into this completely blind. I have no idea what was talked about. I don't know anything at all.
Have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections.
Here we go. This is the purpose of this speech.
Every American deserves to know.
And Leaflit is here to show the reaction of the average conservative right-wing has-been goal of the world.
That when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure. One where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard.
I agree with everything so far, and that's why I hate this Iraq war. If Trump fails to pass the SAVE Act, I'm going to blame his obsession on Iran. It hurt him politically, it distracted him enormously, and he failed to pass the most important act that he should have passed.
Tonight, I'm announcing...
If it happens, he might still get it. That's the purpose of his speech, try to push Congress to finally pack the SAVE Act in Congress.
Immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence, revealing shocking vulnerabilities.
Chat, are there aliens?
There are no aliens.
Chat.
In our election infrastructure.
No, fuck.
This evidence shows that the election system we have...
Epstein's alive? Epstein's alive?
Dangerously exposes, and really exposes, like levels never thought possible.
Exposes what?
The hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference.
With?
Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from
Thank you, Magician Fox.
The American people are beautiful.
Trump declassifies a bunch of documents regarding the 2020 election to back up this speech. That's why it's not. That's why I first ignored the speech. I thought it was just a speech. He might say things, but there's actually documents to go with this speech to back up what he's saying.
American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House government.
Oh my God, dude, this is like a freaking episode of One Piece, man. This is what it's like to watch One Piece. It's like, we have the news and it's coming. By the way, we have the news and it's... Wait, he said it? Did I miss it? No. Did I miss it?
But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House government.
What did he say?
Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the president's intelligence.
Wait, election interference?
That's the part I don't like, blaming it on China. You know that this was a U.S. effort to rig the 2020 election. By the way, the media covered it. China doesn't control U.S. media. And it's U.S. media that allowed the fraud to happen in 2020, that said anyone who dares bring up any of the irregularities was alt-right conspiracy theorist. Yeah, the media is the culprit. Deep state in the United States.
Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. You mean the thing that, like, if you said it, that you got banned? You mean that? You mean that thing where if you said anything about election interference, you got in big trouble because you... Oh, how does this keep happening? It's like, guys,
Just like you said anything about the origin of COVID, you used to get in trouble. Say anything about the 2020 election, you used to get in trouble.
I think the Chinese virus is from China, and then you get banned. You get banned. I think it was from a man-made lab, and then you get freaking banned, and it's like, oh, actually, it was real. Actually, that was true. You mean like the mask didn't do anything? You get banned for that? Oh, actually, that was true.
Yep, all of those things you got banned for.
I'm sorry about that. That was true too. Oh my God, how does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? You get in trouble for saying a thing. You're like, this thing is true, and it's obviously true. Everyone knows it. And then they're like, you are spreading
dangerous misinformation.
How dare you? You are spreading dangerous misinformation. You are now banned. And then it's like, dude. Why is Alex Jones right about everything?
Yeah, I've been living with that for far longer than COVID. There were things you got banned for instantly even before COVID. COVID is just when the normies experienced it en masse and things started to change. Trust in media plummeted. But yeah, there were topics like World Trade Center 7 that, were shadow banned heavily and censored heavily on social media.
That man has been shitted on over and over again, and that guy has a good batting average.
Advisory board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings we are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.
Hold on. Chat. I have to make a prediction. Hold on. Was it real? Remember when I said a long time ago when we got Maduro, and I said that the reason that they got Maduro was because of election interference and they needed him to prove it? They needed to like capture that man so that they could interrogate him and then prove that this is all real? And that's the reason they got him? Is that real? Is that real, chat?
That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas.
The mainstream media and the leftists being retards once again. Oh my God. I love being alive.
Areas of concern. First, they show
so
that
peak.
over a period of years, starting during the
so
2020
excited.
election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest
You see, People's Republic of China, blaming everything on China.
compromise of election data.
Hold on. Are you telling... Hold on, I'll get the...
Hey, Canadian man. I are Canadian man. What? Well, yes, this is about 2020 election, which there's definitely fraud going on there, but it's trying to blame it all on China. There's Project Russia, Project Iran, and Project China, and this is setting the stage for eventual confrontation with China.
Let me get this straight. So, you're telling me that if you make your elections less secure, that other countries will take advantage of it and try to mess with our... What? What? No way! No way!
In history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files.
Honestly, I can't even blame them, honestly. Like, could you... Okay, put it this way, right? Say you had an enemy. You had an enemy. And your enemy was really, really, really strong, right? And your enemy was like...
And even if there was a Chinese operation, which there might have been, it was definitely partnered with the U.S. deep state because the media covered it up. China doesn't control our media. So there definitely was a strong deep state element in rigging the 2020 election. And the very fact that the universal mail-in ballots that was pushed for the 2020 election, that was U.S. deep state that did that. It wasn't China. So China set the U.S. deep state sets the stage for the 2020 election to be less secure in history. And it was done intentionally. Because the biggest internal control on elections is normally the amount of votes should not exceed the amount of registered voters. That should be impossible. If you have more votes than you have voters, you know that there's fraud, normally, in a normal election. But in 2020, you had places where you had like 6 times as many votes as you had voters, some precincts. And they said it was just mail-in voters, people that moved somewhere else and sent in their vote, and we don't really know. But anyway, we receive it by the mail, we have to count it. That was the 2020 election. So the biggest internal control, the biggest thing that prevents massive voter fraud, the not having the amount of votes exceeding the amount of voters, that was off in the 2020 election. And that's how Biden got that 5 million extra votes.
You'll never defeat me. I'm far too powerful for you. The only way you could defeat me is by kicking me in the dick.
It might just go directly to the Trump speech.
That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members
So the real story is these documents.
of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling.
Yes, they did that inside the government. They also, through their control over the media, made sure the media didn't cover any claims of election fraud. And finally, they set the stage. They were putting into motion universal mail-in ballots before even COVID started to spread in some cases.
Covering it up from both the president and the
Like in Pennsylvania, they passed that a year before the election. They passed universal mail-in ballot stuff in Pennsylvania legislature before COVID was even a thing.
American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country.
About the claims of Chinese interference, either they're exaggerated, which is very possible, or the deep state might have more control over China than it does, for example, than Iran or Russia. And therefore it can, just like Mossad does stuff United States deep state wants, maybe there are some elements of China that do the same thing. I don't know which one it is.
Country, a standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say the cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it. Donald Trump to win.
I'm sure there is a lot of evidence of China's interference, but I know there was a lot of irregularities that had nothing to do with China with regard to that election. And it's focusing unnaturally on China. It's, I think, setting the stage for conversation with China.
And for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-
Yeah, it is true that China would have a reason to try to rig the election because Trump went after them with tariffs. And he threatened to do more of that. He is upset about the outsourcing of our manufacturing sector to China, which I am upset about too. But it's too late for that. It's gone now.
2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019,
the two senators that were swapped to also, those elections were stolen too back in 2020. I remember those. That was, yeah, the country with free and fair election would be far more Republican than it is. And that would force the Democrats to give up the weird gender stuff because if they ever wanted to win any elections, they would have to.
Chinese government strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that.
I would have been so much more sympathetic to this speech if you hadn't invaded Iran and basically torpedoed the right, the Republicans, in this midterms because they're going to get crushed because of your stupid Iran war.
This document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military.
It wasn't China that covered up the allegations of voter fraud. It was the mainstream media, the entire mainstream media. And that's under control of the U.S. deep state.
Anywhere in the world, we have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA report.
The globalists within the United States. The Epstein crowd is what I call them.
The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts and
so the deep state was enabled this. The enemies are within.
Admitted that they had, quote,
without universal mail-in ballots, without the media running cover and not covering the fraud, without the deep state hiding stuff from Trump, China couldn't have done anything. It would have been irrelevant. So any focus on China is a distraction from the real enemies.
Deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not
You have to think how much of it was actually burned. We only got part of it.
done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that was supposed to burn the bag. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning.
So deep state operatives within the federal government are slowly being dismantled during Trump's second term, which is a good thing. But he's going to be so politically hurt by Iran. His efforts in that regard are probably going to suffer too.
The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight,
voting machines that weren't supposed to be connected to the internet were connected to the internet during the 2020 election. And there are tons of pictures from different locations of people take a picture of the cords hooking these machines up to the internet. And when they weren't supposed to be. And I could go into a whole video on how all different things they were doing to manipulate. It wasn't fraud on just one level. It was several layers. So that, because if you commit fraud in several different ways, then if one of the types of fraud gets prosecuted, the judge can say, well, if only this type had been the other way around, it wouldn't have been enough to do the election. But of course, it was multi-layered fraud. It was doing it from several vectors. It makes it a lot harder to prosecute the election fraud that way.
We're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it, made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people.
One reason the voting machines are insecure is when votes are scanned, some votes get flagged because it's impossible to determine how the person voted. And then either election official looks at it and adjudicates it, like decides what it is, prints a new ballot, and that ballot is put into the pile of ballots to be counted. So if a certain amount of Trump voters get flagged for adjudication and then get flipped, you can just take off like 1% of Trump voters and flip them to a Biden voter that way. That's one way the 2020 election was rigged. There was people that did statistical analysis and found, there was the places that used these machines had statistically significant deviations from places that didn't use the machines.
People have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past. The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people.
That's universal mail-in voting. It allows dishonest people to just request endless ballots and vote endlessly. One person votes thousands of times.
Who did not exist and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking...
And you know it's deep state because, again, it's cover-up. The cover-up is the key.
The FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote.
Yep.
Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so
The more people you have registered to vote, the more fraud you can do. Like I said, internal control, number of voters and number of votes. Number of votes cannot exceed the number of registered voters. But if you register endless foreigners, register homeless people, and you increase the total number of registered voters, well, you've created, therefore, a big buffer of potential votes that you can put any way you want. That you mail in vote for any of those people, and it doesn't exceed the total amount of registered voters. It creates a lot of room for fraud.
broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor.
Yeah, that was the most blatant voter fraud I've ever seen. The runoff after the voting day, the third place candidate suddenly gets a surge of votes. Everyone who cast their vote after election day voted for the third place Democrat instead of the first place Democrat. It was an impossible result.
Was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month. It took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about.
Yep, that's censorship. That's the mainstream media still has big reach, and a lot of noise won't see this information.
Because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is, and they don't want to reveal it.
They were part of the cover-up in 2020. They're guilty, and they're terrified of being held to account for their misdeeds in covering up the fraud.
In the media, part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets.
I support any efforts to dismantle establishment media. They're utterly corrupt.
Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were...
And then, by the way, I mean as a whole, there are good journalists out there, but the editors are really what controls what story you get published or not. And the editors, doesn't matter if there's one or two honest journalists, in the current system, their voices can't get heard.
Left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody, and it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch us stolen.
Thing is, it'll help enormously to pass SAVE Act, but the damage from the Iran war, it'll be a close battle. If the SAVE Act is passed, the huge help for Republicans, but what's the disruptions that the Iran war is going to cause is going to be catastrophically damaging to Republicans, so I'm afraid they'll still lose. And if the SAVE Act isn't passed, it'll be a landslide against Republicans.
Election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act.
Yes, but look at when you're pushing this. We're halfway through July, and you should have made this speech in February, when you, instead of deciding to bomb Iran, you should have made this speech back then. And you should have been pushing SAVE Act since then. If SAVE Act does not pass, it will be because of your bloody Iran war.
How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay.
I agree. And let's now react to Leaflit's video reacting to those declassified documents.
All right, so we've got Benny Johnson here with a post saying that President Trump newly declassified election documents show Venezuela had compromised election infrastructure dating back to 2004.
Yes, I know that the voting machines we got in America were based on the voting machines Venezuela came up with to rig their elections. Yes, I know that.
Intelligence community reporting from 2004 to 2020 documented persistent concerns about Venezuelan government manipulation of electronic voting systems and potential national security implications for the U.S. election infrastructure. The intelligence established that Venezuelan government officials developed and sustained interest in and likely some capability in manipulating electronic voting systems, including Smartmatic. Yeah, Smartmatic is the Venezuelan. This one was, I think Smartmatic was created in Florida, but from people from Venezuela and somewhat also developed in conjunction with people in Venezuela at the time. But since it was, I think they started it in Florida, but it was very obviously like it had Venezuelan.
They used Venezuela to test it. That's what they did.
people working on it to influence electoral outcomes.
It was always intended to be used in America, but if you're going to create an electronic voting machine to rig elections, you don't want to make your test run in the United States. That's crazy. What if it goes wrong? What if it gets uncovered? No, you want to do your test run in a country like Venezuela.
In Venezuela. Holy shit. Here's a video, so we'll watch this video and see what he says.
Landscape forever with a...
Dude, did Asman cover this? I wonder what Asman thought of this.
Live address from the White House that broke the entire internet, but was banned on corporate TV. ABC, NBC, and CNN refused to cover it.
Asman hasn't been on
There are some topics that are blacklisted in establishment media, and any... talking about how corrupt our voting system is in America, that's one of those topics.
Days. Oh, well, no wonder this happened.
In this bombshell, President Trump made a number of shocking, hard evidenced claims because he released the actual CIA evidence, the way that elections are stolen in our country and how foreign nations can steal our country and how insecure electronic voting actually is, how much we need the SAVE Act. Trump says that the FBI reported that China attempted to manufacture fake ballots for Joe Biden in 2020. President Trump releases bombshell. China attempting to manufacture...
Insecure election. Insecure like a white girl surrounded by minorities, right, guys?
Fake ballots.
In
Chinese
a room
government
full of them.
of export fraudulent U.S. driver's license to Chinese sympathizers in the
Comes up with one hell of examples.
States in order to create tens of thousands of fraudulent mail-in votes for presidential candidate Joe Biden in 2020, and they hid this evidence from the American people. They hid it from you, and there it is. China used CCP assets in U.S. media and social media to incite the BLM uprising. They said that Iran did this
because oh my god, I just realized that was kind of...
Yeah, they're blaming everything on China. That's part I don't like. This was initiated from the U.S. deep state. If China was doing anything, it was at the request of U.S. deep state, and you know that because of the way the corporate media cooperated with it.
That I was realizing people can take that out of context because she doesn't have the buffs that they do. Social standing. Not that she's gonna get stabbed. Well, maybe if maybe if they're from outside the country, then maybe. If they're from certain countries, then yeah, fair enough. You know what? I was right. Fair enough.
As well, I'll show you the documents. Ahead of the 2020 presidential election, China had an extensive plan to utilize potential cyber operations to sway American public opinion against,
especially if she's from like France or like the UK. Oh yeah, for sure. Then
Donald Trump, alleging that white people hate black people, inciting demonstrations and marches against racial divisions, increasing the level of conflict between police and anti-racist activists, feeding any sense that U.S. law enforcement resents people of color. Look at that. So all of the libtards.
I wonder, actually, hold on.
It's all China's fault.
I'm curious. The answer to this question. It's a very interesting question. How have the rates? Oh my god! Holy fuck! I asked for data. I made a research bot to look up the data non-normative gender identification by race and how much it's increased. For black people, 115%. So from the years 2014 to 2023, there was a 115% increase for blacks.
This is a side tangent, but it's interesting, so I'll allow it.
And identifying as like non-binary, this isn't really like gay. This is like non-binary, trans, like xenogender, whatever. It's 115% increase for blacks. For Hispanics, it's 181 percentage increase. Can you guess white girls? It's over 9,000. It's over 1,000. It's 1,024, which is like, that's crazy. That's crazy, right? And
yes, 1,000% increase in non-binary and other identifying white women, because she's going to give a pretty good explanation as to why.
And my theory around this has always been, this was like the joke, and I was reminded of this because of my joke earlier, but my theory behind it was that when the battlefield for girls, the guys don't really apply as much to this, it's mostly girls, but when the battlefield for girls changed into one of identity, with white people being the least valued in their hierarchy of identity, white girls had, the only thing they could do is say that they were some kind of conformative sexuality, which then put them above the racial category. Does that make sense? So like this data makes sense, right? Because if you're a young white girl and everyone's like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, you're white, you're a colonizer or whatever, right? And then the girl goes, actually guys, I'm non-binary, and they're like, oh, okay, like welcome to the club. Do you see how it tracks? Like that idea tracks with that? Yeah. That's what the joke was about, by the way. It was about,
and I think it applies less to guys. One, because guys compete physically, so that's one way social standing is established between guys, is who's the best on the football team, for example, and who's the best in the fight. Second way is for guys. Yeah, even if you're non-binary, you're still a white male. You're already at the lowest point of this identity social pole. Even if you become non-binary, it doesn't really help. Whereas if you're a woman and non-binary, you've got two. So you could sort of still fit in.
It was about how if you have a white girl in a room full of minorities, she's going to be like, well, I don't have any buffs. You know, that was a joke.
Every person that shared a BLM black square, you are a Chinese asset. You are also probably an Iranian asset, as has been declassified here. Foreign threats to the U.S.
I'll have a look at the video. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'll have after this
election. It goes through how Russia, Iran, and China are all trying to rig the election. China was trying to rig the election against Donald Trump, and so was Iran. Okay, so Iran didn't want
gentlemen, a heavy heart and deep regret must inform y'all women. Well, this has been a woman thing for like ever, to be honest. So like okay, so when it comes to like young people, men participate in direct competition where a man is like, I'm better than you at fucking this video game, get fucked,
exactly.
Like, you suck, you know, like your rating is ass, right? But then with women, it's like different. It's like a social fight. This is why like you always see the trope in like video, like not just in like shows, right, where you have like the dudes are like going to war. Like the dudes are going to war. They're challenging each other to duels, and then women are like in the court, like, you know, in the royal court, and they're just being like, yeah, you know, that girl, she's such a bitch, right? And then they play like this kind of like social venom, like gameplay. Yeah, it's basically the same thing, just a modern version of it.
When China didn't want Trump to win. What was Iran doing? So Iran was trying.
Yeah, and the reason why women support the current thing is because there's social currency. So if you think of it as social currency and
put a Ukraine flag in your bio, and you've got more clout.
Everything makes sense. What did I say before? Think about capability, think about incentive, and think about end goal. The end goal is to be the top of the woman hierarchy because it's the best social standing to be in. The incentive is to do whatever it takes to increase your status within like the group of women, right? And the capability, they're not going to kill each other. You can't do that, right? So what else is there to do, right? So if you have the intersection of those things, you can see how, okay, well, so if I buy in to the...
It used to be being at the top of the female hierarchy meant you were the cheerleader, prettiest girl in school. And you were most attractive for a male at the school. Nowadays, top of the female hierarchy is not necessarily the most attractive for a guy at the school. Non-binary, support all kinds of weird things like Ukraine. Yeah.
The entire gender non-conforming thing, then that increases my status, which I can't raise the status of my race because everybody hates white people. So the only way for me to raise my status is by assuming an identity that does confirm to me those benefits while washing away the aspects that make me negative, right? Because once she's like non-binary, she can say that she's oppressed. And so now that she's oppressed, she can join the fight for the pyramid. Do you understand?
To attack Donald Trump using civil unrest, domestic protests, racial justice, mail-in voting, and the administration's handling of COVID.
It's a very feminine action to seek a social resolution to a problem.
The Supreme Leader actually authorized this. So if you were
sorry, I know I'm pausing so much, but it's because I'm thinking, you know, like stream of consciousness and stuff. And this is the reason, by the way, while women are more likely to social posture, right? Well, women are more likely to say, "Oh my God."
If all these foreign governments did this to election, if they actually were involved, it was because they were invited to, because deep state made suggestions and said it's an opportunity to do that without blowback. It'll be covered up because deep state wanted Trump out.
That's like so bad. Like, I care so much, or, oh my God, like, are you a bad person? Oh my God. Right. Because all of these things are signaling like they're signaling that you're better than other people. Do you understand? I'm a much better person because I say this thing, which is why women are ultra susceptible to this kind of a thing.
Domestic protests, racial.
I mean, look at the Supreme Court justice. Oh, if I just say the thing, it will protect me. If I just like stop being so harsh, it'll protect me, right? You can, guys, like you can see this throughout society, and not even throughout society, throughout all societies. Have you guys seen those Chinese court dramas? Have you guys seen Apothecary Diary?
We've got the point on that. Let's get back to the video.
Shut up. You're doing the same thing, just in a womanly way. Everybody knows it.
Justice, mail-in voting, and the administration's handling of COVID pandemic. The Supreme Leader actually authorized this. So if you were sharing libtard memes, masking memes, BLM memes, social justice memes, you were doing the will of the jihadist, Iranian, bloodthirsty, death to America crowd. Good job. Great job.
Yes. Blaming the problems with the U.S. voting system entirely on the enemies, the Iran, China, Russia, and making American people hate them and not the deep state that is ultimately responsible for all this. And I'm still not convinced that these truly were done by Iran, Russia, or China. They could have just been the covert side of the CIA, and it gets when the evidence of it emerges, they just blame it not on the right target within the CIA.
Everyone, or the Chi-Coms. Incredible. It's all now available on.
The only people that don't care are autistic people, actually. Now that I think about it, I think the only people that don't care are autistic people, because autistic people are just like, don't really care about the social thing. Just kind of like, I just do my thing and I want to do this thing because I like it, and I'm just going to keep doing it.
Whitehouse.gov election integrity website. Election integrity here. So there are.
I disagree. I don't consider myself autistic. I consider myself prideful and wanting to know the truth, which is why I started the blog during 2008 financial crisis. And I was dragged kicking and screaming down the conspiracy rabbit hole, and that just puts you on a different plane of everyone else. I'm getting my news from different sources than the mainstream media, and I have a completely different worldview. I believe like 3 skyscrapers collapsed on 9/11, whereas the rest of America believes 2. And it's a horrible place to be. It's not place I wanted to put myself, but it's a place I ended up.
Ton of documents that
that's why they have no power over me. Like they can get mad at me and try to blacklist me and like mean girl me all they want, and it does nothing because I don't really care. I just want to make a cool game.
It's released. There are thousands of documents actually that are just released, so we're just getting like the little bits and pieces of them rolling in right now. Let's just take a top line here from the president's team. Declassified documents show that in the 2020 cycle, China carried out the largest compromise of election data in history. They took effectively the voter files of every American. Names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote, engage in nefarious activities. Evil. Even when significant evidence of fraud had been detected and buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight, the FBI files detailing evidence of massive fraud operation in Michigan. They kicked in the door of and then the FBI completely covered up. FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, but Joe Biden slow-walked the investigation.
It's not China that's controlling the FBI or Iran or Russia. It's U.S. deep state that's covering it up.
For years, Kash Patel has got to get it done. They said they're not going to cover the speech, Donald Trump says. They don't like the topic, how corrupt our system is. We got to pull their broadcast licenses.
And it's not China that's making the U.S. media not cover Trump's speech or these documents.
So here we go. Put it together. These disclosures reveal that an election system is broken and vulnerable.
These disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable.
So to the extent that it raises awareness of how broken our election system is, this is good. To the extent that it's blaming everything on China and Russia and Iran, it's not great, because the source of the problem are not those countries. It's within.
That no one can
the Epstein crowd
possibly defend it. It is not defensible.
They'll keep defending
Hundreds
it,
of millions of U.S. voter files
These people are so lost
in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking.
You could tell them that the sky was blue and they'd still argue with you. Actually, it's not. Sometimes it's orange.
Manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been...
The media often just puts filter on Trump to make him look more orange than he actually is. I think it's happened so often that Trump's given up on calling them out for it.
to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
Jeez.
Yep.
He's pissed.
I was going crazy about how bad our election system is more than 10 years ago. It was truly hopeless to do anything about it back then. We've come so far in that at least people are aware of the problem now.
You can see it here too, by the way. So some of the files that we've downloaded: summary of the intelligence reporting for Venezuela's electronic manipulation capabilities. Oh, I thought this was this was safe and secure, and it was the safest and most secure election ever. Turns out that's not true. They were lying to us the whole time. Here's directly from the CIA.
No, really? They were
Venezuela.
lying again?
Smartmatic was used to manipulate election results using pre-programmed voting machines. These machines were deployed in 300 voting centers. This is talking about Venezuela's election. Traditionally pro-Chavez areas to ensure the voting machine was he won by approximately 1.5 million votes. He ended up winning by 1.6 million votes. So they plugged in the algorithm into the machines. The machines created fake ballots, fake votes, and he was able to win. And they assess the intelligence community that
Again, Venezuela was just used as a testing ground. The intent was always to use these in American elections.
Venezuelan government manipulation of electronic voting systems and potential national security implications for U.S. elections and infrastructure. The intelligence community established that the Venezuelan government officials developed sustained interest in likely capability of manipulating electronic voting systems, including Smartmatic technology. There it is. Insane. And that this could, at scale, this could rig elections in the United States. That's what this says. We have it now. We have the documents. No one can call us election deniers. We have the documents. Beijing's efforts to shape U.S. policy.
They talked so much shit about us for so long. They said that we were awful people.
But it's not going to end. They're going to keep talking shit about us because mainstream media isn't covering this. So people get their news from mainstream media aren't going to know about this. And if we bring up these documents or whatever, they'll just say, "What nonsense are you talking about? It's not true. There is no voter fraud."
We were delusional, that none of this was real. They keep doing
What's sad is leftists do care about like Gaza and Palestinians, and they don't understand that the same system that is rigging election against Republicans also rigs election against any pro-Palestinian Democratic candidate. There's a reason why all of Hassan's favorite candidates in Democratic primaries lost. This rigging system is used against them in those primaries. The pro-Israel candidates get the extra votes. And so if they want to reduce Israel's influence over Congress, you need to fix the election system. It's the first step.
it over and over again. They keep being proven wrong. It's almost like if you do exactly the opposite of what they say, you're more likely to be right.
In China. This goes through how Beijing is hoovering up all this.
Fuck, I'm gonna die, huh? I'm gonna die. I got one COVID injection. I'm fucking dead, aren't I?
Evidence in order to blackmail American politicians and administration officials. So it's like the full Eric Swalwell, vulnerabilities of U.S. elections and infrastructure. Again, this is saying that Russia and China.
NATO cannot say. I heard that was. Is that true? NATO cannot say is like from NATO, right? I heard that was good. Is that real? Should I do that?
And Iran are trying to hack our elections, and that they can hack our elections because of, look, they're playing Doom on a voting machine. Because everything is connected to the internet. It's all electronic. And that this could, they don't have proof of it, but they could rig our elections through electronic voting machines. You need to get
I keep saying it, man. Those damn riggers, you know what I mean?
rid of these machines. And then DHS released these numbers. Insane numbers.
Yeah, look at those numbers. For these states, non-citizens deceased. Voter rolls. Like I said, one of the most important internal controls is the registered voters. If you have in Texas 100,000 deceased people in the voter rolls, that's 100,000 potential votes you can stuff into the system without them being detected or triggering like, oh, why are there more votes than there are registered voters? That is really, for anyone who's trying to rig election, the hardest thing to deal with. The not being able to exceed the amount of registered voters. So every deceased non-citizen registered increases the amount of fraud you can do without being detected.
You know what I mean?
rid of these machines. And then DHS released these numbers, insane numbers. 250,000 non-citizens are eligible or registered to vote. Of course, they're not eligible. They're illegally here, and they are illegally voting in our election. Georgia, Ohio, Tennessee,
Oh, yeah.
Texas.
The tech companies cooperated with the push to safeguard, to dismiss claims of voter fraud. And it was huge pressure on them because of the government. So it was misinformation that needed to be eliminated.
Deceased and non-citizen voters. Even in Republican states, you have thousands of non-citizens voting, or at least registered. President Trump just like going ballistic on all of this. Amazing. 250,000 non-citizens illegally registered in just 4 states. Insane. I can't believe the documents. I can't believe it's real. It's finally out.
Confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's...
This focus on China, I don't like, though. It's setting up China as Project China, next one to go after Iran and Russia.
Illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers.
And China is not going to take these accusations lying down. They're listening. They're hearing United States setting the stage to go after China at some point.
Political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare.
Well, we've already heard this, so we're going to stop there. I think we've covered it. It's good that information on how insecure our elections is being released. It's bad that it seems that most of the blame is being put on foreign actors when this is clearly an operation from within. These are holes, the vulnerabilities created in our election system by the U.S. establishment, by the Epstein crowd. Maybe, yes, foreign actors might or might not have taken advantage of it, but the root of the problem is the Epstein crowd that created the vulnerabilities to begin with. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you next video. Bye.